morning and welcome to Sport for Business. It's Friday morning, the day on which the 2021 SSE Airtricity Premier League kicks off. And I'm delighted to be joined by the COO of Bohemian FC, the team which finished second in the Premier Division last year and with hopes of going one better this year as well. But much more than just a football club. You're very welcome, Daniel.
Thanks a million, Rob. Really great to chat to you.
Tell me something. It has been, let's talk football first of all. It has been a year like no other and a close season that will have presented its own challenges. How has it been for you in the role and for the club as a whole?
For me in the role, firstly, it's been, look, I suppose I was on the board for close to a decade, so there was no kind of bedding in period. I was kind of involved in most areas of the club, as are all directors. So for me, it's been really busy. I suppose it's and people I taught this before. It's hard to separate your passion from your, bring a passion into a work environment is challenging because you tend to maybe do too much, and I'm just trying to manage that. But for the club overall, look, it's been a brilliant period for us, and it's very, very kind of paradoxical, I suppose, because we got this period of time where, for the first time in our history, Dalymount Park has been empty for a league campaign for last year, more or less, bar a couple of games at the beginning. But off the pitch, things have, a lot of really good things have happened, and that's been a strange contrast. And on the pitch, with the absence of fans, we had our highest league finish in a decade. So some quite contradictory things happening at the same time, and hard to kind of wrap your head around them. The best thing that's happened by far is that historically our membership has always been around the 500 mark, and the members are the full owners of the club, and they pay a premium to be owners, and our membership is now over 1,000, and that's been the biggest, to double your membership, and that's never been the case ever. We can go right back to records in the 40s, 50s, 60s. So that's been really so reassuring, heartwarming, and positive to happen in a period that's so challenging.
And it's important to have that sense of ownership and that sense of wanting to do right by the club, because the club is so embedded in the community. But at the same time, it's been tough for everybody. So, people have been out of work, people have been uncertain about their future. So the idea of, continuing to put money into the club and to fund that part of your life when the chances are that you're not going to actually get to see the value of that live in person for a few months yet, that must be really heartening. What is it about Bows that you think has really got that sort of sense of community down as well as anybody, and probably better than most?
I think ultimately it probably comes, we're fair to people who founded the club, like 131 years ago. If you look even in the name Bohemians, they eschewed it's commonplace for clubs to be named after geographical locations, which is the norm in football clubs in Ireland and internationally, and to choose a name like Bohemians and then to go further than that and to have a model that was based upon total democracy and one person, one vote. I think that, that naturally kind of leads itself to a club that must kind of do good by everybody and trying to be a positive force, because ultimately, whilst other people can have financial benefactors, and that's part and parcel of sport, and in particular football, we can't. And our kind of strength and our investors, inverted commas, are our members. So to attract more members and to attract more people, it's just so key that we act in an honest way, in a way that has integrity and that people gravitate towards in a positive fashion. And I think that's something we've really worked hard on doing, and it's natural to the club's ethos, and kind of the models that the founders probably had in mind, you'd imagine.
You've got the choir, you've got the initiative last year to bring the asylum seekers and the refugees in as a greater part of the club. And this year you've gained publicity not only on Sport for Business and in Ireland, but all around the world, for the partnership that you've established between Fontaine DC, the band, and the charity Focus Ireland. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. We launched the shirt on Saturday, and I should kind of premise this part of the conversation by saying it's only possible thanks to the Kelly family at Des Kelly Interiors, and so important. The Kellys have been a huge supporter of Bohemians for a long number of years, over 25 years, and they're a family-owned company. And I suppose when I came to them with this concept, they were supportive of the idea, and that's huge credit to them, because without them, this conversation doesn't happen. But yeah, I know some of the lads in Fontaines and their manager, and they're obviously a brilliant band. They were Grammy. They were up for a Grammy yesterday, and last week on Sunday, and they had the conversation with them, and it really came from they had a big gig last February before lockdown in the Olympia, sold out in Aid of Focus Ireland, and it kind of got me thinking. Homelessness is something that is becoming semi-normalized when it doesn't have to be at all. And we had a conversation with Focus, conversation with the Fontaines. We agreed to come together, and I thought it shows the power of sport. But when you combine the power of sport, which is enormous, with the power of music, and you bring the two together, two things that people really have a huge love for, will have a love for their entire lives, that you can then amplify your audience and not only raise money for Focus Ireland, but bring a spotlight onto an issue that sadly is worsening in Ireland. And it's been great to see the reaction, and to see sports pages and music pages speak about an issue that is really a social issue. It's been really great. The reaction's been a lot bigger than we thought.
And part of it will be fundraising. So I think it's 15% of the profit from the sale of the second kit will go to the charity. But it's the awareness, really. It's the fact of trying to make sure that this doesn't become normal, that we don't just keep on walking by, and that we do keep at it. So well done on that. We do an annual event and a report on sport for social good. So book that into your diary for December. At the end of the season, anyway, we'll come back and we'll talk about that. The season that we're about to set off on now is again going to be strange. There's going to be no fans in Dalymount, no fans in any of the league grounds. I reported on the Irish Supporters Network, and looking at the fact that 75% of fans want to be back in stadium pretty much now. They'd be happy to do it with all of the the precautions in place. That's not going to happen. We're not going to get 75% yet. What way are you, as a club and as a business, trying to forecast in terms of getting fans back in, notwithstanding the fact that it's down to public health at the end of the day? But do you feel as though we will get fans back in the, maybe at the start of the second half of the season? And when do you think we'll be getting up to 50 or 75 or even 100% of the grounds?
I'd hope so. We should, again, like on this topic. I think it's kind of it's semi-foolish to predict. Who would have predicted, I suppose, last February that we'd have no crowds today? So, and as you said, like the vaccine rollout, there's a few hiccups. I'd hope that we would have some fans by kind of summertime. I'm also involved to a degree in the music industry. I manage a band, and that band has a big gig booked, say, in the Olympia in October. And unfortunately, I don't think that will go ahead as a standing gig. Because if you take an environment like in Olympia Theatre or Vicar Street standing, can you contact trace? No, you can't really. Who was standing beside you at the gig? I think what football has going for it in Stadia is the first of all, the fact that you can allocate a seat. If contact tracing is required, you can do that. But for mostly it's outside. We know from public health guidance that the risk dramatically drops in an outside environment. So I hope that a combination of those two things, a seated environment where people can be allocated space, where you can properly socially distance, and ultimately where you're in an outside environment, all of those would seem to tick pretty big boxes. So I'd hope that we could have, when you speak about a stadium like Dalymount Park, where your capacity is close to 4,000, to bring in even 500 into that environment would appear to be quite a safe note. I'm not a medical expert, but it wouldn't appear to have a huge degree of risk. I think the main areas for clubs are going to be around kind of access. People coming in, people leaving, toilets, whether there's food vendors or not, any kind of crunch points where you get people together. That's probably going to be the areas that we need to focus on most. So I'm hopeful, but again, I think it's difficult to predict. I do, it's been a very strange experience for all sports, as we've seen. Whether live, I've been lucky enough, obviously, to be at those games. It's been bizarre, and hopefully not something we see again. But I'd hope that that'll be the kind of timeline we're looking at. That definitely coming into next season, that we have significant crowds. But for this season, if we can even just gradually begin to reintroduce crowds, I think that will be that'll be something we can all look forward to.
We will definitely keep our fingers crossed on that. In the meantime, we're going to be streaming out the pictures from all of the grounds. How have you found that experience amongst the fans? Because Bose is all about community. It's all about the excitement and the live experience. The streaming one is not quite there, but is it something from a funding point of view? Obviously, it's important. Is it something that you're pushing hard to the fan base for the first half of this season at least?
Yeah, I think to be honest, like when it comes to League of Ireland, I think that if we're honest with the numbers, I wasn't surprised. I think there was kind of certain people saying, "Oh, this would be an enormous package," and the optimism was good. But realistically, I think that the streaming, to me, its inherent value was in rewarding and keeping people connected in terms of your loyal fan bases. And for us, we have a big number of members and a big number of season tickets. And in 2020 and again in 2021, the kind of the main win on the streaming for me is to be able for those people to be able to see games and to keep them connected, and to bring in some new people is good. But ultimately, I think League of Ireland, you said it there, for me, the USP of League of Ireland is that it's the experience of going to the game. It's the fans, the locations, it's the live match day experience. And that's the reason why there isn't a big TV deal in League of Ireland. Most leagues, the biggest income are TV deals. The League of Ireland clubs predominantly, they are run on match night revenues. People coming to the game and the ancillary benefits of that in terms of spend inside the stadium. So streaming, to me, it serves those people, and it can bring new people, and hopefully it does, and it has to an extent. But I think that was its main purpose. And so for us, we're given the streaming pass to all members and season tickets. We're definitely going to push it on other channels, but it's really coming back to the live kind of match day crowds that we're used to, where we're aiming to get towards.
Okay, and just before I let you go, while we're on the optimistic beat, and we're both naturally optimists, you did make some progress in terms of the new stadium and the redevelopment of Dalymount Park over the course of the last year, the lockdown. So some of that money has just begun to trickle down now, so that the initial works in terms of design and architecture and all the rest of it can go ahead. How hopeful are you that within the next 2 to 3 years that we will see that work physically beginning, and that we will get to see a brand new municipal stadium for Dalymount?
Yeah, be very hopeful. Like on that area, there was two big projects for us in terms of capital investment and capital infrastructure. One was facilities in terms of our underage League of Ireland teams, and we had the big announcement last week with an 18-year partnership with DCU, which was huge for us as a club. Brilliant partner, and something we'd worked on for the last 6 months, and really just really I think that's really going to stand to the club for a long period of time. And then we move on to Dalymount, and as you've mentioned, there was large scale sports infrastructure funds announced last January. Was 948,000, and that money is now released. And I think that for ourselves and for Shelbourne Football Club, the redevelopment of Dalymount provides what will be a world-class small stadium in Dublin City in an accessible location, to grow Bohemians, to grow Shelbourne. It's good for both clubs. It's good for football, and I'm very confident. And I think there's going to be there should be some announcements in the near future, and they'll come via Dublin City Council through both clubs. And I'm very hopeful with Dalymount. I think it makes sense, and that's the main thing. All along in this process, there was a unanimous vote at Dublin City Council to acquire the stadium. It got straight into the large scale sports infrastructure fund, and I don't think anybody involved in sport, or actually people even not involved in sport in the local area here in Phibsborough, people support this project, because ultimately Dalymount's a very historic site, and to keep sport in an inner city location is really important. We've seen a lot in the UK where sport has been moved to the periphery. We've seen it in Europe, where you're moved out beyond kind of motorways and ring roads, and the essence of the sport, but also the kind of the fan culture and the impact is lost. And I think to keep Dalymount there, and to see two clubs share it for the next century is brilliant for football, but great for the city too, because it's part of the social fabric of the city. And I'm really excited to now begin to see developments there, proper physical developments in the near future.
It is always a pleasure to talk to you, Daniel. Your optimism is infectious. The very best of luck in the season ahead for both the Premier Division and for the Women's National League, and for all of the other wonderful community initiatives which you have on the go. Thank you very much, Daniel Lambert, COO of Bohemian FC.
Thanks, Rob. Great to chat to you as always. Cheers.